Inner Circle. I'm so excited about this week. I want to share with you some engagement tips on how to increase your engagement on Twitter. So get out your pen and paper because I think there's a couple of things here that will probably really help. One of the things that I found with Twitter is that you can kind of get lost over there. There's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of noise, as I call it, and sometimes people are like, okay, well, I just don't get this, and I can certainly relate to that because that's exactly where I was. I've had a Twitter account for, a little over 5 years now, but I really only started using it about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, when I decided to take my business in the social media direction. So I was like, I have to figure this out. I would go over to Twitter and I would get so frustrated. It used to automatically refresh. So, you'd no more and start reading a tweet and it would refresh and you'd lose it and you'd have to scroll up and oh, I just got so frustrated with it. I was like, I don't understand Twitter. So those of you who don't get Twitter and, you say, oh, I'm not sure I'm ever going to get it. Trust me, I totally get that. But I'm hoping that before you're through with this month that I can convince you otherwise because I am here to tell you that Twitter has probably been the #1 difference maker in my business as it relates to social media. So I'm hoping that I can convince you to embrace it and leverage it for your business because I truly believe that any business owner out there can do great things with Twitter. But with that said, again, going back to that noise thing, there is a lot of noise, and how do you cut it down? How do you, start to really engage with people on Twitter? And I'm going to give you a few tips today. It's been my experience that once people get on Twitter and people start talking back to them, all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's actually people over there. There's people that, behind those Twitter usernames, and it's not just a bunch of gobbledygook. So if you can get people talking back to you, I think your interest level will skyrocket for one thing, and then you'll actually start to be able to form relationships, which is what social media is all about to begin with. So a few things that, one thing in particular that I want to start with that some of you are going to groan over is the fact that you have to post frequently on Twitter. And I'm going to make a bold statement, and some of you are going to be like, oh my gosh, what is she saying? But I think during prime time, depending on where you're located in the world, but prime time might be, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I'll just say for myself, for example, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. is when I primarily tweet. Now, I do schedule some tweets during what I call my non-prime hours, simply because my audience is worldwide. If your audience is worldwide, I'd like you to consider that as well. But what I'm getting ready to say to you is, if you can tweet at least once an hour, I would encourage you to do so. If you can't, then at a minimum, you need to be posting on Twitter or tweeting on Twitter at least 7 to 10 times a day. Twitter moves much faster than Facebook and some of the other platforms, and your tweet has a lifespan of about 30 seconds in the feed, especially if they have a lot of followers. It goes even quicker. You need to be constant and consistently sharing content on Twitter. So that's the #1 thing. You should absolutely be sharing content because if you're not sharing on Twitter and you're not tweeting, how are you going to engage with people? How are people going to engage with you? So you need to be sharing content. That's my #1 tip. And how do you do that so that you're not just run ragged? Let's talk about that just for a second before we move on to the second one. There's a number of ways to do this. Personally, I use Hootsuite, and I got my Hootsuite all set up here. I do a lot of what I do on a daily basis on Hootsuite. So literally I can go in here, I can type in, what I want to say. I can schedule it by looking at the little scheduler here. I can auto schedule, which I usually never do. That means that, Hootsuite chooses the best times for me. I don't do that. So I turn that off and I usually just schedule my own content. Now, you can schedule your content simultaneously using Hootsuite, so you can share to Twitter and Facebook at the same time, for example. I usually do share the same content on Twitter as I do on Facebook, except that I don't post as frequently on Facebook as I do on Twitter. And so Hootsuite is one choice. And Hootsuite does have a couple of options. They have a free version and they have a pro version. But if you're serious about your business, I think you need to go ahead and invest in the pro version. They do have a 30-day free trial, and it does give you some options that the free version does not. So I think that's really, really important to invest in your business. Free tools are only going to get you so far. So again, whether you go with Hootsuite, which, I use Hootsuite. I use a couple of other platforms as well, but for most people, I think Hootsuite is an amazing platform and certainly one that will be something you can leverage. There's also others like Social Sprout. Social Sprout is more. It does have a few more features, specifically their reporting tools, which I personally love. But again, it's more. It's $39 a month, 59 for the deluxe, of course, all the way up to 99 for their premium. So they don't even have a free version. You can get a free trial. Obviously, try it out. Definitely encourage you to check it out. But again, it's all about saving you time while you're being effective on social media. And scheduling is the key to doing that. Okay, my number 2 tip is thank people who share your content. It's a great way to form relationships and start a conversation. You can do that within Twitter proper if you want to by clicking on your connect. It'll pull up all your retweets and any mentions that you have. So for example, if I wanted to respond to Faye right here within Facebook, all I would have to do is hit the reply button, and it pulls up both Faye and Steve, who was the original sharer. He shared my content before Faye shared it. She retweeted it, and I can physically thank them. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Faye. And, oops, I can type here. Faye and Steve for sharing this one. How has your Monday been so far? Now, this is a great tip right here, guys. I always thank them if I can, and I end my tweet with a question, an open-ended question of some sort, so that I can elicit a response, and now I have a conversation going. So this is incredibly important, and I think it's a great tip from the standpoint of getting people talking back to you. So I'm going to just share that. So that is one way. You can also see a couple of other things here. You can see when people add you to lists. You can see when people follow you. So there's lots of different things that you can see, right within Twitter. Now, for the most part, I do all of this from Hootsuite normally. So as you can see, here's Faye, where she retweeted me. I could respond right here. Everything is very centralized. It's very easy to see, and it keeps you focused on just your retweets and your mentions. So again, highly recommend you use Hootsuite. And my third tip is use hashtags, guys. Use hashtags that are relevant. Don't go overboard. In fact, I would encourage you not to use more than 2, max 3 per tweet, because otherwise it just gets hard to read and it looks like you're spamming. So use relevant hashtags so that people can find you and connect with you around similar things that you share a common interest in. And I'm going to give you a bonus tip as it relates to driving conversations more specifically. Let's say, for example, you ask a question or you have something on Twitter that really is hot. It's getting a lot of engagement. People are sharing it. Or maybe you just ask an open-ended question and you got a lot of response. For example, one day last week, I asked the question, "How was your day?" That got a lot of engagement on my Twitter profile. So what I did was I took the link to that. In fact, you can literally just pull up the link for any post by clicking on the little, I'm not sure you saw that. So let me go back. Any of your posts, if you click on the minute or when it was posted or when it was tweeted, it will open up the individual tweet, and you can copy and paste that link and share it on Facebook or wherever you want to share it. So I took that question that I had, and I could do the same for this one, and I shared it on my Facebook page, trying to engage my Facebook base with my Twitter conversation. So that is a great way to leverage other social platforms to get people talking, to get people engaging. If you can get people talking to you and each other in social media, you win. It is a win. So I think you're going to find that if you can get people talking to you on Twitter, engaging with your content on Twitter, then you are going to ultimately get a lot of enjoyment and results from Twitter. So in the group, tell me what your biggest takeaway is. If there was something that I shared with you today that you didn't know, or that something that you knew but you haven't really leveraged in quite the same way that I shared it, or you came up with a brand new idea around something I shared that you can take and run with. I would love to hear how you're going to get people talking and engaging with you on Twitter. Thanks, guys.